What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Health Over Everything podcast with yours truly, SoCal Gula and Steven Z. What's up, Steven?
Not much. Enjoying my Saturday morning. About to get this podcast done.
Yeah. So today, the subject of a conversation is basically food and nutrition and things like that. So, what did you have for breakfast this morning to start it off?
I had oats with a banana and some egg whites. I usually will have full eggs, but today I did some egg whites because I was planning on doing something fatty later, some bratwurst, something different to switch up the diet on the weekend. So holding the fat from the morning so I can have it later, pretty much.
So, what kind of fats do you have later?
The main source is going to be the bratwurst. Usually I'll have like avocado, a lot of like nuts and stuff, but today I'm like just to keep your sanity with your diets. If I always feel like if you restrict yourself too much, then you end up binge eating, and instead of having a slice of pizza, you eat the whole pizza, and it just helps or it makes you ruin your diet essentially. So every now and again, I don't really consider them like a cheat meal, but if I feel the need to eat something, I'll eat it. I don't try to hold back too much. And I just move the macronutrients around that main bad meal that I want, and I'll just adjust everywhere else. So keeping the fats low in the morning, and later I can have my fats.
Okay. Yeah, well, I also ate what you ate this morning because I seen your Twitter post and it or X post and it said, so I had some oats with some yogurt and a banana and some avocado toast, which I never really ate that before. I don't really eat yogurt or oatmeal, but with some health issues of my own of like high blood pressure, I needed to do something to switch it up. And basically just cooking at home is the way to go.
Yeah. I
So
feel
you
like that's a sure way to know what's actually in your meals too. Because if you go somewhere you don't know how much salt they're putting in, you don't know how much oil they're cooking with. So doing everything yourself gives you a better idea of what's going into it, and you obviously you have control over that as well.
Yeah, that's crazy because like basically everywhere, every restaurant's gonna have a lot of sodium in their food because, like I was telling somebody recently, like Subway, they have chicken, but you could buy chicken at the grocery store and it has hardly any sodium in it. But if you go to Subway, it has tons of sodium in it because one reason they gotta make the food last longer. So sodium actually helps food preserve it longer. So obviously, if they didn't have sodium in it, they would probably have to discard a lot of the chicken, which would cost them probably millions of billions of dollars. So that's one reason why they have sodium. And another reason is just to make their food taste better because, you can't stay in business if your food doesn't taste as good. And not everybody wants low sodium or so there's lots of sodium in food. And that's my main issue right now because I have high blood pressure. So I'm on a low sodium diet and trying to figure that out. Just started. I'm feeling a lot better.
Nice. Yeah, I really never kept track of my sodium, but my blood pressure isn't bad. I think I took it yesterday. It was like 130 over 74, which I feel is normal. They say like textbook is supposed to be 120 over 80, but I think different schools of thought will say, oh, well, 130 is normal too. The website I was looking at said it's what was it, elevated blood pressure, but I'm like, I was like, my blood pressure has always been pretty good. So, but I was like, I kind of want to do a little experiment myself and maybe cut out some of the sodium and see if I could get it closer to 120 just to see what happens. Maybe I'll try it for a month or something, just not adding as much salt to my meals, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I actually think I'm going to try it. So just
Okay.
for a month and see if it makes any difference.
And it's crazy like how fast your body reacts because, like I kind of like got off. I knew I had high blood pressure like last year, but I kept eating. I started eating really good meal prepping and stuff, and I got it down to normal levels. But then, I'm like, oh, it's back to normal. So then I went off of it. And my main thing is I would eat a lot of Subway for lunch, which has a lot of sodium in it. And then I started feeling really bad recently. And I'm like, what is going on? So then I checked my blood pressure and it's obviously super high, hypertension 3. And I was like, okay, now I need to stop that. And I started just 1 day, 2 days of low sodium, and I'm already feeling a lot better than I did last week. So it's crazy how fast your body can like adapt to like a new diet.
Yeah, especially too if you were eating those sandwiches and it spiked your sodium so much, it created so much pressure like in your blood vessels that it probably didn't feel good. So now that you don't have that, it's probably like, all right, this is more acceptable. I'm feeling a lot better.
Yeah, and they say like sodium like retains water. So now you have like you have a lot of water in your system, and you have less blood. I don't know. You were explaining it earlier a little bit more how it worked, but so if you don't eat as much sodium, you have less water retained in your body, and then you have more blood flow, and it kind of like makes that blood pressure go down a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was in my mind. This is what I was thinking. I don't know if it's actually factually how it works, but I'm like, if you had more water in your body, I'm just thinking your blood vessels have less room than they would normally have to push all your blood through. It's almost like, you have
Oh
this like
yeah,
it's kind of constricting it a little bit. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, but it would make sense.
yeah, that does make sense actually when you think about it. So that's what I'm on. But like I also quit sugar like 2 months ago. About it's almost been about 2 months now, and that helped too because I was also a little pre-diabetic, and it's crazy because it's called the SAD, Standard American Diet, which pretty much everybody lives on. That's why it's a standard American diet, and you're gonna get the standard American diseases. So you're gonna get high blood pressure, you're gonna get pre-diabetes, and eventually diabetes, and heart disease, and cancers, and all these things because of the standard American diet, which is basically processed foods.
Yeah, if your body doesn't like that stuff.
And over time, like when you're 20, you could handle that like pretty easily. For most people, you can handle it. But once you start getting into those older years, we're both 40 now, it's like your body starts giving you signs. And a lot of people just disregard the signs or just go to the hospital and be like, oh, what's wrong? Like, oh, we have high blood pressure. We'll just give you a pill. And then they just continue eating the way they eat. No one actually teaches them. So I'm really don't want to go to the hospital because that's just like a downward spiral of like just pharmaceuticals forever. So I started looking into just my eating habits and my exercise, and I started losing weight, but the diet has a lot to do with it anyhow. Even if you lost weight, my blood pressure was still high. So your diet, and because that's the nutrients in your food, so
Yeah.
you need lots of, like, a lot of people just want to eat meats, which is good, but for protein, but you need vegetables, you need fruits, and you definitely need what not to eat is like, you don't want to eat processed foods. That's the main culprit, and sodas and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing lately too, is just try to eat more natural food, try to cut out as much of the processed stuff as I can. And I'll have some every once in a while, or maybe even once a day. I have some little nuts that has like a little bit of M&Ms and like peanut butter cups, but they're like super small. And that's like my little treat that I like to have at the end of the day. And it's not like I'm eating a crazy amount. I weigh all the food out, so it's like pretty much like one serving. And
Yeah,
those are the types of things too that you could get carried away with if you just put the whole container in front of you and you're munching it. You could eat 3 servings very easily because obviously I'm weighing it. I can see how small one serving is, and I'm like, it's pretty much nothing. So it's very
yeah,
easy to go above and beyond that if you're not paying attention and you don't know what a serving actually looks like.
yeah. And then like these foods are engineered to make you want more. So it's like it hits the dopamines. Like they're scientists. They know what they're doing. They're trying to make billions and billions of dollars. So they engineer this food to make you addicted to it and want more. And like you were saying, you eat a little bit of things that help you out. Like let's say like a little treats here and there. But I'm trying not to eat none. But it's all depending on where you're at in your health journey and where you want to be. If you're overweight or obese and you want to start, you might have to still eat that for a while because no, I'm just saying, like, just if you're eating it 7 days a week, try to eat it 6 days a week at first, and 5 days a week, or just less per day, because you're going to go through major withdrawal systems if you just cut off like instantly. And that's what I had when I cut off sugar for the first time. I think you did too when you stopped vaping. Like, just have withdrawal symptoms. Your body gets used to a certain thing, but over time, your body gets used to the new thing, and it actually becomes better.
Yeah, it was the same thing for me too with the alcohol. When I first stopped drinking, especially on the weekends. Like I could be good Monday through Thursday, but then Friday after work is like typically when I would have a drink, and I'm like, oh, it's like my body knew like it's time to drink, but then I'd have like these little mental tassels with myself where I'm like, no, 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 you said you're gonna stop, and it was like a
Yep.
flip flop back and forth until eventually, I didn't quit. I kept trying to stop, and eventually I got to the point where I was able to stop completely. But to get to that point is work, and I think that's why a lot of people don't actually go through with it, is because of that mental battle that you have to have with yourself. And it's so much easier just to give into it and go back to your old ways instead of trying to build like these new neural pathways in your mind,
Yes.
and the chemical addiction that you have to it to overcome that as well. So it's a battle, so I can understand why it's not easy for everyone to do.
Yeah. And a lot of things is just education too. Like a lot of people are not like they've never been taught this stuff. They never thought about like why am I keep going back to it? And like if you even look at my health journey, like I'm the lowest weight I've been in about 4 or 5 years. And if I've been recording my weight, tracking it for a while, and you see it goes up and down, up and down. And the reason why is because I would get on it and then the neural pathways just lead me back to the old way. But each time I would just get a little bit better. So you got to just stay with it. And like, okay, just as long as you never give up and you on your health and you just keep trying on it, eventually it'll get better and better. And now like I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I've learned a lot about like my habits and how I keep going back to it or off of it, and that I could actually like sustain it this time. And I also learned like, okay, well, this is the things you need to eat, and this is the things like over time will make you feel better, and you start feeling better and you're like, oh, I feel so good, I could eat the bad things again. But in your head you have to have something in your head that says like, no, you can't, because remember the last time. But if it's your first time, you might not have a last time, so you might not have that experience yet. They'll be like, okay, last time you went back to it and you started feeling like shit again, like, so don't do it this time or it might last longer. And that too, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too because I feel like more recently I was even thinking to myself like why is it so hard to change? I'm like, because there's these aspects of me that I wanted to work on, but for whatever reason I wasn't working on them. Like I've been working out for 2 months now, but before that it was like an idea like, oh, I should focus more on my health and exercise and do those types of things, eat better. But I never would do it. It was like I should do it, and I felt like I just kept putting it off, like almost like, oh, I'll start Monday, and then I didn't start that Monday. But like, all right, well, I'll just mess around this whole week, and then next Monday I'll start. And I kind of tussled with that question a lot, like, why is change so hard? And I think part of it is you just get into these habits and these routines, and anything that deviates outside of the norm feels uncomfortable, and you don't like it. So
Yeah, and like and change is so hard, and like everyone has so many reasons why not to do things. Like I heard like so many reasons why not to be healthy, or like, oh, I'm doing fine or whatever. But they don't understand. Like some people will say reasons like, well, I can't start eating more plants and vegetables or just go on a vegetarian diet, if even that, or something like that. That's kind of extreme because a lot of people don't want to do that. But even just eating like chicken and or salmon, like I love my grandma's like beef stew or something. I love my grandma or my mom's cooking. Like I have to eat that. It's like, well, we're not saying you don't have to eat it, just get better and eat it here and there. But all the other times when your mom's not cooking that day or something, or her favorite plate, your favorite plate, eat healthy, or just incorporate more vegetables and fruits, get those minerals, like eat some broccoli. And another thing is too, like your tongue and your taste buds are palatable. Like they change over time. Like something that you might think tastes like junk or whatever, like tastes nasty, like vegetables or something. After you start eating healthy for a while, like a month or two, like you'll notice like, okay, it doesn't taste as bad, and you start actually liking it. And then once you go back to the bad stuff, your taste buds have changed so much that you're like, whoa, what is this? Because one thing I did is I stopped drinking sugar like for like about 2 months now. And I was in the desert working and I was sweating a lot. And I thought, maybe I need a Gatorade because I'm like, I don't want to dehydrate. So I went and got a sugar-free Gatorade, and I just took one drink of it and I just threw it away because it was just so sweet, like the sweetest thing I've ever tasted. I was like, well, I never remembered it being this sweet before. But it's like, just because I've just been drinking water for 2 months, your palate's changed. And like before, I'll just pound it and it would just taste like normal. but now it's like super sweet and it's just insane. Like your taste buds change. So you also got to take that in account too. Like they will change over time. So maybe just eat a little bit of broccoli and then more and more, and then eliminate the junk at the same time. And eventually you'll start liking the stuff.
Yeah, I think I had something similar back when I used to smoke cigarettes. Like after, obviously, when you smoke cigarettes, they taste like shit. They smell bad,
Yeah.
and remember I had stopped for a while, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have one, and then once I smoked again, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, how? It's like you think to yourself, like, how did I ever even do this to begin with? But when you're actually doing it, you never question it at all. So it took quitting for a while to realize, like, oh, this is nasty. Like, why am
Yeah.
I doing this? And then your lungs hurt, your throat feels all jacked up. So
Yeah. And another benefit for like changing your diet too is just like you'll start noticing all the bad stuff. Like when you're just eating junk all day, your body gets acclimated to it. Like, okay, it's just normal. It is what I do every day. And it has the withdrawal systems if you stop it, but it's also it just feels normal. So once you start getting on a healthy lifestyle, uh, your body just like once you let's say you eat a cupcake after like 3 months of eating good, your body will feel it. And you're like, whoa, why does my body feel like that? It feels totally different. Like, oh, that's because, or you drink a soda, like you'll feel the difference. And it's like, but you don't feel that when you're doing it every day. And then people like, just like, what do you call it? You get adapted to it. So like you'll drink one soda and then it's like, oh, I just didn't drink one soda. And then the next day you're drinking two. And then next thing you know, you're back to drinking like 5 sodas a day and just being unhealthy. And that's a road to diabetes.
yeah, too. I think part of it too is like your body knows if you have a lot of sugar at certain times and that chemical isn't there at that time. It's almost like your body, I feel, will send you signals a little bit like cookie, cookie, cookie.
Yeah.
And I throw that little thought in your head, and for whatever reason, you'll be like, you're like conditioned, like, oh, around this time, I usually have a sweet. Like, maybe even I still have it because I'll have like my sweets after dinner. So it's like after
Yeah.
dinner, all right, I get my little snack, my little treat for the day. And
Have you tried like eating like some blueberries or strawberries or something after instead of like a candy? Because those are like that's I heard that's a good substitute because that's what I do. I'll eat like a steak and potato, and that doesn't really have any sweetness in it. And I'm just like, I feel like I need something more after. So then I'll eat like a couple strawberries or berries and I'll get that sugar or cantaloupe. And I'm like, okay, well then I'm good. I don't need the sweet anymore.
I haven't tried that, but maybe I will. Usually too, I'll have my little treat at the end of the day has some fats in it. So those kind of help me get in the rest of my little fat macros. So
Yeah. I learned that from my brother because he has some health issues back in the day and he's like, he can't eat any sugar. He's diabetic. So he's just like, yeah, I just eat a cantaloupe like after when I need something sweet. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea because, they're sweet. And like, even though it's not candy, it still sends a signal into your brain like, oh, it's sweet. And it's kind of like, fulfills that sweet thing, craving. So it's a good thing to try it out.
then you're getting like a natural amount of sugar, not something, like a
Yes.
Starbucks drink or something that has an insane amount of sugar inside of it.
Yeah, and the thing I was talking, like, I'm reading this book called How Not to Die. And it basically, I'm actually listening to an audiobook and I recommend everybody go check that one out. But it's, based a lot around like plant-based foods. And it's not just like you're thinking like, oh, I'll just eat, carrots and broccoli. You're eating beans and lentils and, avocados and different stuff like, but just eat a lot of more plant stuff. And they're saying like when you do eat like a fruit that has sugar, natural sugars in it, it also has things like potassium and vitamin A in it. But when you're eating like a candy bar, it's just refined sugar. That's all there is in it. There's absolutely no minerals, absolutely no nutrients in it. And I'm not, an expert at this, but I'm pretty sure something like potassium kind of like counteracts like the sugar. So if you're just eating pure sugar, you're just getting diabetes. But if you have a fruit, it has potassium in it and other things like that, minerals that could counterbalance that sugar and actually like lower your blood pressure and like decrease your risk of heart disease. So like that's another thing too. Like you're getting all those minerals in that stuff too, because I had a lot of people tell me like, oh, you're eating a banana that has sugar in it. I was like, yeah, well, it has lots of minerals and vitamins in it as well.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever told me you can't eat a banana because it has too much sugar. I'm like, yeah, it's healthy, it's natural. Like
Yeah.
saying an apple is bad for you because it has sugar in it.
Yeah. Like what people should actually like do is just concentrate on like what that book is about is whole foods, like natural foods, like one ingredients. Like if you own the grocery store and you're looking at a bag of Doritos, there's a list of like, a paragraph long of ingredients. And there's other chips that have like very like just 4 or 5 ingredients. There's healthier options of chips like baked chips and stuff like that. But when you're looking at most of this food, there's so many different ingredients. But when you eat an apple, there's just one ingredient, apple. It's like it has minerals and vitamins in it, but there's not ingredients. Like if you eat a steak, it's just steak. If you eat chicken, it's just a chicken. Like, but if you go to obviously unprocessed chicken, but you don't want things with a bunch of ingredients in it because you don't even know what those ingredients are. Those are chemicals you're putting in your body that are chemically engineered to make you addicted, to make you stick on that diet and ultimately lose your health.
Yeah. It's like they say, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like what I've been doing with my diet. Like for dinner, I'll usually have chicken, some sort of veggie, and some sort of like a starchy carb, like potatoes or yams. I've been doing a lot. Haven't really been doing rice anymore. So basically my starchy carbohydrate is like a potato or yam, sweet potatoes, and then I'll do some sort of vegetable, either broccoli or cauliflower. Or this week
Yeah.
I got some squash, and I try to switch it up like that too. So I'm not just only eating a certain like broccoli all week and only,
Yes.
because then you're going to be deficient of other vitamins that are in other
Mhm.
foods. So even with my vegetables, my fruits, I'll try to switch it up. I'll have an apple one day, some oranges another day, maybe a pear or a peach the next day.
Yes. Variety.
Yeah, you get as much different variety and nutrients that I can, so I'm not deficient anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Like a lot of people don't understand. Like when you go to like eat a lot of plant-based foods, whole foods, there is a lot of different varieties and things that you could do as well. Like I've been, like Chat GPT, I use that all the time. So I'll like eat a sweet potato and I'll be like, okay, what are the benefits of sweet potato? And it'll tell me, okay, it has vitamin K in it, it has vitamin A in it. It increases your fullness in your stomach. So you don't, it like just makes you feel like you're full. So you don't eat more. So it's just a lot of different things. And then I'll eat like berries. Oh, what are good with berries? Like blueberries, raspberries. And it says, oh, it has antioxidants, which fight those antioxidants go in your body and they fight dead cells or bad cells, and they gets rid of them. So you don't, if you're just eating sweet potato all day, you're not getting antioxidants. If you're not, just eating berries all day, you're not getting enough calories, or you're not getting like other minerals that come from like meat and stuff, like, or whatever, so it's like you want to definitely a variety, and there's a lot of variety out there.
Yeah. And those things, are good for you, but you don't want to just be so focused on eating, those are healthy, but so focused on them that you're ignoring all these other things that have all these other nutrients that your body needs.
Yes. Another thing I was going to say, like, in that book, they were talking a lot about beans, like beans and lentils. Do you eat any beans and lentils in your diet?
I've been doing beans pretty much every day. I've been getting just the canned, like refried beans. That's probably
Okay.
not the most healthy. I guess the most healthy way would probably be to buy your
Well,
own beans and mash them up and do it that way. But
yeah. In the
I don't.
book, it actually said it says you should have beans or lentils in every day. Like that's what it says. Like it's one of the most magical fruits out there, like the pun of the song, but it says that you should have it every day. They're rich in fiber and rich in a lot of different things like protein. But it says just eat whatever ones that taste best to you. But the thing I found out, like I was nervous because like I'm high blood pressure, and to cook them, it takes like an hour to boil them. And I don't know about a pressure cooker, but it takes about an hour. I'm like, I don't have none of this time. So I've just like kind of gave up on beans. But I just now found out, which is like, this is the point of education and keep learning. And it's the point of this podcast to teach people too. But, like there's actually cans of, because anything in a can, I would assume that had just a lot of sodium to make the shelf life longer. Well, there's beans with no sugar added. And I just found that out like yesterday. So I'm like, oh, thank God I could go eat beans again without sitting there waiting to cook them forever. So I went and got some, I think it was black beans yesterday with no sugar added, and it has 3.5 servings in a can. Well, it was like 35 grams of sodium, or no, 35 milligrams of sodium. But if you have the normal ones with sodium, it's around 365 times 3 servings. So it's up to like 1,400 milligrams of sodium. So that's a lot more sodium. But I didn't know that there was cans that, like, so there are healthy, they don't have as much shelf life for the company, so they don't have as many of them, but they're on there. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to eat beans all the time now again. Thank God.
Nice. Yeah, pretty much my go-to for lunch is ground turkey, some sort of beans, and they have like different flavored beans. So they have like the jalapeno beans. You can get the normal refried beans, and that has lime in it. So I'll switch it up to get some different flavors. But yeah, ground turkey, beans, and some salsa for some added flavor, and then I'll have some sort of fruit with that. And that's usually my kind of to-go lunch that I've been doing. It's easy. You get your protein, some carbs, your fiber. That's the good thing, like you were saying with beans, that has a lot of fiber, which you do need. It helps you absorb nutrients, I believe, and helps you poop better.
Yeah, your digestive system.
I've never really had a problem with that, but I guess I've always kind of ate a high fiber diet because I like fruits. So I try to eat, even when I wasn't weighing everything, I would still eat good. But that was another thing. Before I started weighing my foods out, is that I realized my calories were way, way low. Like I was probably eating 1,000 calories a day, and I'm like, well, I'm like, that's not good either. I'm like, in my brain, because I wasn't weighing everything, I'm like, I thought it would have been more than that, but my weight was pretty much staying the same. So I was like, oh, this is probably just normal. So I actually increased it to where I'm at now is 2,400 calories, and my weight's been staying the same. So I'm eating 1,400 more calories, and my weight's just been pretty much chilling around 180. So, and I think it takes a while for your kind of your metabolism to get used to your new calories. So I was doing like 100 calories extra. Well, I think I bumped it up to 2,000. I didn't gain any weight, and then after there, I started doing 100 calories every day. And then I got to a point where I'm like, I even think right now I could maybe do 2,500, but I'm like, with 2,400, I seem to be losing weight. I seem to be building muscle. So it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I'm like, part of me was thinking about increasing the calories, but I'm like, I might just hold off on that.
Yeah, and that's another thing for people too to understand is that you don't want to go too low of calories. Like the general rule, like you said earlier, to me personally, it said that you want to lose like 1 to 2 pounds a week. You know, obviously, I would assume if you're like super overweight, 300, 350, you could probably lose more than that, especially in the beginning because you're getting all this excess water weight and all this stuff. But if you, over time, if you're doing too low of calories, your body needs to energy source from somewhere and it will start taking it from your muscles. And you don't want to lose your muscle mass. That's one thing you don't want to do because muscle mass is good for longevity and also like not following and your bones and everything. So you want to make sure you get enough calories per day. So, you know, tracking it's kind of hard for some people, but eventually do you think that you could just do it mentally because you just know like your diet so well and you don't need to track it?
Yeah, I think you probably could, especially if you're weighing everything out for like a while. I think you can get a rough estimation of what certain portions look like. So you could probably get in the ballpark figure of where you need to be. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm a little anal with things. I like to just,
Perfection.
yeah, I just like to be on point. And if I'm going to do something, I'd rather just do it all the way and not half-ass it. Like, oh, maybe I am eating enough today. Because that's, like I said, that's kind of where I was at, getting 1,000 calories. Like, I'm probably good. And I'm like, well, let me just start to weigh some stuff out just to see where I am. And yeah, thousand
It is.
calories is not enough for you. And I think
No.
after a while of eating that low, I think your metabolism slows down to kind of compensate for that. Like, are you eating this much? So you're not really um we don't need to be revving up the metabolism high because you're
Mhm.
eating so low that I don't know if it's like a metabolic damage thing, but I just feel like over a long term it's probably not good for your body.
It's pretty crazy how your body works. Yeah, it just knows everything. It's just insane like how it does it. Um, I forgot my train of thought, but so what are you gonna eat for dinner today?
I'm still gonna have some chicken, veggies, and my sweet potatoes, but I worked in a couple of bratwursts, so
I'm still thinking about what I should eat because I need to go to the grocery store. And what grocery store do you go to?
I usually just go to Stater Brothers. Every once in a while, we'll switch it up, go to like Winco or Aldi's. Sometimes they have good deals, different kinds of food on sale.
Yeah,
But
I
usually
usually go to Stater Brothers too. That's where it's right across the street. But I was thinking about today going to Sprouts. It's like a more of a farmer's market, kind of have more healthier options of different stuff. So I was gonna go try that out. Have you ever been one of those?
yeah, we have one across the street too. But yeah, I haven't been there in quite some time. Maybe I'll actually stop by there, see what they have.
Yeah, it's more a little more expensive, but you know, at the end of the day, like food, like I was reading that book. It says like, okay, it's like might be a more expensive on a calorie basis. Like you get a lot more calories for like from from a candy bar than you can like a piece of chicken because it's just empty calories. But on a it's more expensive on a nutrition based, like nutrients based scale, you know. So
Yeah.
basically it's like it's actually cheaper when you're getting nutrition, because if you're gonna buy if you're trying to get nutrition from junk food, you're gonna need a lot of it, you know. You're gonna have to buy a lot of it, and you're probably not gonna get much of it anyhow.
Yeah, and then I feel like your body's not going to be fulfilled, so you're going to have these cravings to want to eat more because like you're saying, they're empty calories, and like a candy bar, you can't eat a candy bar and expect that to fill you up for a long period of time. You're going to want something else after that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's crazy too, because like reading that book, listening to that book, How Not to Diet, tells it basically talks a lot about like how you can prevent and reverse like the 15 top diseases, and it goes one by one. It goes heart disease, and it goes like whatever, high blood pressure, diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders, and it tells you like what kind of foods you need to eat, that colon cancer and stuff like that. So they said like, oh, flax seeds is good um for colon cancer, to help fight colon cancer. So I've been putting that in my food. And there's like, oh, the spice, I forgot, turmeric, you know, put that in there and it cures something. So it's like, that's a really good thing about that book too. You don't understand about these foods. They literally have compounds and stuff that go into your system and fight these things that create these cancers, and processed foods have none of that. So this is why a lot of people get cancer and heart disease and all these ones. Yeah, like they're saying something about like 96% of women um can avoid heart disease just by eating good. And it's like, so and it's a leading killer of men and women. So these women and men too like are dying of heart disease when it's pretty much preventable just by your diet. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like we have like a weird system put in place where you're not really taught. You could go out there and search for the information, but you have to go look for it. Nobody's giving this information to you. But basically, you can figure out how to eat better, what foods are more nutritious, and I think we all kind of vaguely have an idea. Like, all right, you need to eat these kinds of foods, stay away from the processed stuff, exercise, get enough water. I feel like a lot of it is common sense, but we have this weird system where it's like we're almost conditioned to eat the junk food. And then eventually, when you do get sick, go to the doctor. He's going to give you a pill, not talk about your nutrition at all, just give you a pill. And then that's it. And then probably after a while, taking that pill is going to have a certain effect on your body that you'll need the other pill to kind of compensate for the damage that pill is doing. When
Mm-hmm.
in reality, you could just do most of it with nutrition. Like, get your nutrition on point, get your exercise regimen going, all the things you should be doing. But I don't know if we just live in such a fast-paced society where people feel like they don't have time. You're at work all day. The last thing I want to do is come home and work out and do all my meals and the meal prepping. But like, I think I was saying in another podcast, like, it's all hard. Like, you can have the hard now by, I like to, when I had to wake up early, I would do my workouts in the morning because I didn't want to have that thought in my head, like, oh, I'm exhausted after work. I've been working for 10, 12 hours a day. I don't feel like working out. But when you first wake up in the morning, you don't have that. Of course, you have to get to bed early, but I would
Yeah.
do my workouts in the morning first thing and it was almost, I felt good about it. It's like I could check that part off of my day. I woke up, I got my exercise in, and that's kind of a reason why I just started feeling better about myself. Because I think I started doing the things that I knew I should do, and in the long run it helped me, my mental health. I think it helped me like tremendously. I'm not getting into these funks anymore. I'm feeling better, more energized. So I think it all kind of adds up, just like doing all the bad things add up eventually as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The system's crazy too. Cause like you think about just like the money aspect, like it's just so expensive now. Like back in the day, you're a lot in the 50s, you could have one person working to support the whole family. Now everyone's so busy. And that's why fast food is so popular, and like just the convenience of it, because you're just thinking like, oh, I'll just go grab some Subway real quick. Takes 15 minutes. I'm already out. You're not going to go home and and you only get an hour of break or something from work. You're not going to go home and sit there and go grocery shopping and make the food real quick and then go back to work. Like you're just like, oh, just go grab this. So the whole system, even the economically, is throwing you towards the processed foods and stuff because it's just so much easier.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a system put in place that wants you sick so that you could go to big pharma and they'll give you a pill and help you out. And well, I'm going to help you out, but you know, try to combat the symptoms with the pill instead of getting to the root of it and just stopping it in the first place. I don't know. It is a weird system that we have
Yeah.
in place. I don't know. Seems like most people don't. I don't know if they don't have time to stop and consider these things, or they don't care, or they're wrapped up in other things like sports or gambling. Like we have these other addictions that we get caught in and kind of throw our health on the back burner. We don't really question our health until you go to the doctor and you get a diagnosis like, oh, all right, well, because of your lifestyle, you have 6 months to live. And if you don't make any changes, this is where you end up. And that's usually typically when people are like, oh, well, maybe I need to change now. Where,
Yeah.
well, I've always thought like, why wait to get to that point?
Yeah. And I felt like I already got to that point, but like I didn't go to the doctor and have like something crazy. There's my dog in the back. Fellow, love it. My dog. But I had this point. I didn't go to the doctor and like get cancer or anything, but I felt my body going crazy. So that's why I was like, oh, what? Like, why am I having like a little tingly in my foot? I'm like, oh, you're pre-diabetic. I'm like, well, why is there a little pulsation? Like, why do I feel like my stomach is pulsating like crazy after I eat this food? I'm like, so I went and got me a blood pressure reading and also got me a glucose monitor. And then I checked them both, and obviously they were both high. And I'm like, well, there's your issue. And so it's like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the doctor and then tell you the same thing and give you a pharmaceutical, or you're going to just change your lifestyle first? So it's like you want to prevent it before it gets to that point where you are, okay, now you have 6 months to live.
Yep, exactly. Get to the root cause of it while it's not a problem before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Just nip it in the butt before it even gets there. It's
Yeah,
almost
it's
like
crazy.
that. What is it? If you're not careful, you might end up where you're heading.
Wait, what? Say that again.
If you're not careful, you might end up where you're heading.
Oh, I like that one. And that was also another one. Like, don't let the good be the enemy of or don't let the great be the enemy of the good or whatever. So like, or perfect, like you want to be perfect, but it's like, oh, you can't be perfect. So just be good, like just do something good. You don't have to be perfect with your diet. You don't have to be perfect with your routine. Just be good at least to get better. Like just keep striving, because even human nature is you're more happier when you're just at least striving for better and you're getting like, moving forward. So even if it's just a little bit, you want to just get better. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I like that you said that too, because I think too, when you initially start to do like a lifestyle change, you kind of set on the table every single thing that you need to do, and you become so overwhelmed at all these different aspects that you have to do that you end up just, I'm not even going to do it because I'm so overwhelmed with all these tasks that I could see on my plate. And instead just break it up into small bite-sized little pieces like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, today I'm gonna just have a good breakfast, and then do that
Yes.
for a week or two, and then all right, after I get that in line, now I'm going to do my lunch too, and then eventually you do everything and kind of just take it in little bite-sized pieces so you don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning stage, especially in the beginning stages, because
Yes,
that's
especially.
where you're going to have the most resistance and the most urge to kind of go back to your old habits. So
Oh
you
yeah,
gotta.
that's what I would do. Like I would eat at AM PM every morning. Like that's what I would do. Like my daily routine was wake up, go to AM PM. First thing I'm thinking about, I'm getting me a taquito. I'm getting me like a hamburger or a hot dog, and then I'll get me some cupcakes and an energy drink. So then it was just like, okay, just don't get the energy drink and the cupcake. And that was it. Like the rest of the day, I could eat fast food or anything else. Just don't get. And that was the hardest thing, like for me to do, because I would just wake up and then like, oh, I'll just go get it anyhow. And then I would like one day I'd bring a banana, and I'd be like, I don't want this banana. I'll just go back to it. And it just took so long just to make that one step of just not eating the AM PM in the morning. And that's not even including the rest of the day, what I would eat. But this is like, then once you get past that one step, you're like, okay, I made it. And then it's just fine. Like, okay, I'll eat an apple, and then you just wait till the next time. You might be hungry, but you got to have some snacks too. And like when you want some snacks, like you're saying, get some almonds or something. But it's hard to get that first step, like just making that first change.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of what you're saying about like how when I first stopped vaping, it was like, okay, like I'd wait till I got like done with one and then like, all right, this Sunday I'm done. And then if I even had a little bit left, I would just toss it. And then Monday, I'd be getting off of work like, oh man, I got to smoke. I'm gonna go buy another one. And I'm like, what am I retarded? What am I stupid? Like what am I doing with like I'm saying I'm gonna do one thing and I'm like in a way I'm wasting money too because I still have
Yeah.
some of that left. I should have just held on to it if I was gonna smoke the next day. But it was almost like I was trying to do that to almost help me stop. Like, no, you're throwing this money away. Sunday, you're done. And then Monday would come around and I'm like, I would just go buy one and then start smoking again. And it was like it took me like a long time to kind of get past that point. And then like even yesterday I went out like and there were people vaping and I'm like part of me was like I could probably hit that right now and be
Ooh.
fine to smoke for one more day. And then the last time I stopped I told myself this. I'm like, remember how hard it is for you to stop. Like once you get going, it's really hard for you to stop. And that's kind of why I didn't do it too. Like I was very tempted yesterday, and I'm like, no, because it's not worth going back to that old lifestyle. I was like, if I do it now, even if I probably just take one hit, will probably be at the store tomorrow chasing the dragon, like they say, chasing that fix. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna go through with that. So like even I probably haven't smoked for a few months now, but even now, like I still have that little part of your brain that's trying to play those tricks on you, like, oh no, you could do it. You could just have one. You'll be fine. And I'm like, it's not even worth it to me to go back to that lifestyle. Like I've been good. I know it'll probably be hard if I do go back to stop again. So I'm like, I'm not doing it at all.
And that's crazy too, because like those intrusive thoughts always get into your brain. But it's just like we were just saying earlier in this podcast. Um, by keep working at it and keep trying and keep having that desire and that hunger to be better and to stop, like eventually you will stop for a few days and then you'll get back to it. And then you'll stop for a week and you get back to it. But then like right now, like yesterday, when you wanted to hit that vape because you've seen people doing it, you got that intrusive thought. Now you're thinking in your head, like, I remember that last time I stopped for a month that I took one hit and I went right back to it for 4 months. And so that just repetitive pattern increases. That's why you got to stick to it and always stay with it, because eventually you will fail and you'll fall off the horse and you get back on it, but you'll remember like how you fell last time and you don't want to repeat that. So it's like, even though you had that intrusive thought and you want to hit that or you want to eat that food or whatever, then you remember, well, last time I ate that bad food, like I haven't ate sugar in 2 months. I'm sugar. Like, okay, if I went and got me a Red Bull, will I start drinking Red Bull again? Like, will I drink 2 or 3 of them? Like, and no, because now I know, like the last time I did do that, the foreman came up there on the job site, gave me a Red Bull. And the next thing you know, I was drinking Red Bull for the next 2, 3 weeks. And I was like, it's like crack, So I was like thinking like, okay, I can't drink this at all, at all, because it depends on some people are not as addictive as we are and they might be able to do it. But me, I'm just like, oh, I'll fall back into it. So I know through routine and after trying for a couple of years of working on my health that I know that I'll go back to it and I can't let that happen. So just like, nope, we're trying to stay healthy. I'm trying to live to 90. That's in my head every time. I'm trying to live to 90, try not to die, trying to, and this is what keeps me like that routine. So you just got to stay on that path. Even if you fall off 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, just keep on that path and never give up.
Yep, that's all you pretty much have to do too. And it's like it's not an easy process. So
Mm.
be prepared for it to be challenging. Be prepared for your mind to play the tricks on you. I call it your little like your mind fuck or your just the mental component to it that you're just having this war and it's all up here like should I do it? Should I not do it? Oh man. And then but like you said too, it's good to get maybe the first time you stop for a month and then you go back to it, and then the next time maybe you go for 2 months. So as long as you keep going and coming back and trying to make the change, like eventually it's gonna stick. But if you just give up, then obviously the change never happens because you quit.
Yeah. And I did that many, many times, like just like in my weight, so I got 200 and I get all the way up to 220 and I go back to 200. Then I'm like, then I go back to 215. Then I go down to 190. And then I'm like, then I go back up to 215. And I just like, just cause I keep getting off and on. Like, and it's like, I'm like, why am I keep doing this? But now it's like, okay, I know that I'm getting older and the time is getting shorter. And if I don't, back when you're 20, you could think like, oh, well, maybe I could get off of it, or 20, 30 or something. I could get off of it and I'll be fine. Like I'll just get back on it but then eventually like issues start showing up like high blood pressure and pre-diabetes. And you're like, okay, now I can't get back onto it because this is getting into danger zone now. So once you know that you could get back off of it and get back on it without any serious repercussions, you do it. But no, when you start thinking about like, okay, there's going to be serious repercussions, it's a very good deterrent to not get back on it and stay healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
My dog in the back going crazy. I don't know if you can see him.
Yeah, a little bit.
I
You're hiding most of
don't know
them.
if you guys could hear that on there, but if it is just my dog being bored. But
Say what's
yeah,
up.
so anyhow, yeah, the food is just crazy, like the health and diet. And then like a lot of people, like it seems like they don't want to do it, or like let's say like you say I'm going to get really healthy and I'm going to start eating a bunch of um vegetables. Like I remember one time one of my friends, he became vegan, your nephew Mikey, he was like a vegetarian, and someone told him like, and he was an overweight big guy, saying like, oh well, the people that I see that are vegetarians are the weakest people I've ever seen in my life. But he's like 300 some pounds. It's like, well, how strong are you? You're a thing of lard. I don't want to make fun of like fat people that much because I don't try to do that, but it's just funny like how people hate on you for like life choices that are going to better you. Almost like, why are you saying that? Kind of thing.
It's almost like ignorance is bliss. Like you're making fun of somebody that's trying to better themselves because they're doing something that maybe you can never do or that you don't agree with. But at the same time, you have your own set of problems that you're like totally oblivious to. You're not looking at them, but you can see other people's problems with such clarity
Mm-hmm.
and ignore
Yeah.
your own problems. Like how has that happened? I feel like that's a pretty common thing too. It's very easy to overlook your own shortcomings, but when you analyze other people, you could see them like, oh, that person needs to do this, that, and the other thing. Like I know quite a few people like that that are
Yeah.
very judgmental and you're the one that needs to change. It's all
Mhm.
you, and I don't have to do anything because I'm perfect. And
Yeah, I don't think you're like that, or me, or I'm not like that, or you're not like that very much. I like talking shit here and there just as much as the next guy, but I think we more like me and you think of it like everything's our issue. If like this guy is doing something wrong, like well maybe I just need to get away from him, or like everything's my fault kind of thing. Like I don't blame anything on anyone else. Be like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. I really don't care. Like honestly, I'm like I need to be the best as I can be. And if that offends you and you're mad about that, or you think it's the wrong way, like that's your issue. I'm gonna continue to like be good, and I'm not advocating for like vegetarian or vegan because like like a lot of people hate against that so bad. Like oh like you need to eat meat. Like what's wrong with you? But like I like meat. I like steak. I like chicken. I like steak, fish. But there's a lot of benefits to plant foods, like a ton of it. You don't need to eat tons and tons and tons of meat. You could have it here and there on a rational a good ration of it every day, but you need these vegetables because they have a lot of minerals that meat don't have, and nutrients. And it's funny too, like the guy that's like 300 pounds, he's over there saying like, oh, the vegetarians are like the weakest people I've ever met. Well, like, why don't you try to work on your diet and lose 100 pounds, even if it took just eating plant-based foods or whatever. But then you'll see like, okay, you're not weak, you're actually skinnier, and you're actually, I could run farther, I could breathe better, I could tie my shoes, like like things like that. Because at one point I got to 230, it was hard for me to tie my shoes. I can only imagine being 300. I'm only 5'7", but I was just like, oh man, I can't even bend over now. But now today I weighed in at 187, and I feel like my back start hurting as much. My hips start hurting because your frame is only allowed so much weight. Like once you go too much on that, so it's not just like your metabolic health that's messed up. Your whole body, your skeleton, and everything could mess up. Your joints and stuff because of your weight. So you should think about this and like, oh, you're not as strong, but it's like actually I'm getting stronger because I'm eating better. It's
yeah.
crazy just to think of that.
I think too, a lot of it too, it's always so much easier, kind of like what you were saying earlier, how we're not really judgy. We kind of like, I'm more focused on myself. I know there's other people who are doing things that I personally don't want to do, and have any judgment towards them. I'm like, they're living their life, they're doing their own thing, they're living life the best way they know how, which I feel like that's basically what we're all doing. So I don't talk shit on what other people are doing. I just kind of stay in my own lane and focus. Like that's the only thing you can do too. It's like I know if like I even tell my fiance this, like if you were to try to tell me 6 months before I stopped drinking that I needed to stop drinking, I'd be like who are you like trying to tell me what to do? Like you don't know me at all. And little did I know that 6 months after that, I would have done it. And it's kind of funny. That's why I'm like, there's no way, like, I know from personal experience that you can't do anything to change anybody else. Like, that's a battle you're not going to win. Like, it's like, if I wanted you to work out, I could pick you up, take you to the gym. I could put the weights on the bar, but it's like ultimately it has to be you to lift the weights to get the benefits. And if you're not going to do it, I'm just wasting my time, you're wasting your time. So I kind of got to the point where I just focus on myself. Like,
You know, it's funny. I think of a thought of experiment now. Like you're 40. Imagine, like you say, other people you don't listen, and most people don't listen to other people. Like you're saying, they need a catastrophe in order to change or something. But it's like, what if your 40-year-old self can go back in time and tell your 25-year-old self, like, you need to do this? Would you listen to your own self? Like this is, I am you in the future. This is going to be horrible. Stop doing that. Would you like stop doing that or not? Like, what do you think about that one?
I still think you wouldn't. You'd be like, this fool does not know what he's talking about. I'm not going to become that person. Like, this guy's tripping. What does he know? Like,
You
I'm
wouldn't
not
even
like
listen
that.
to yourself. Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't think you
I think
would.
the same way because other people said the same thing too. Like I don't think I would even listen to myself. I'm like, but it's you. It's like you're gonna have high blood pressure. You're gonna, you're not gonna be a millionaire at 40. You're not gonna, um, you're gonna have pre-diabetes. I was like, no, I'm still gonna go party and go eat my fast food. I don't care. I have time to change. I'll change in 5 years.
I think at that time, too, you're so young and oblivious to everything else. And I don't know, when I was younger, it's always like I felt like, oh, I knew it all. And like as I got older, I kind of understood more of the things that my dad would tell me. And a lot of his perspectives kind of made more sense. But when he would tell me things, I'm like, what the hell is this old man trying to tell me what to do? He don't know anything. And then you
It's
get
fun.
older and you're like, all right, he was right the whole time. I'm the one that's been a fool. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people have that kind of epiphany with their parents as far as like their teachings and the things that they say. Eventually, you get to the point where you understand them, and it's kind of funny when that happens.
Yeah, my boss had a good one. He's like thinking like, because he's 60 and something, I'm 40, but we have some people that work for us that are like 20 years old and they think they know it all, And he says something like, he's like, "Oh, you think you know it all?" He's like, "You know what? I'm 40. I know more than you. I'm 60. I know more than you. I've had way more experiences." It's like if you are 20, 25, and some 10-year-old comes up to you and says, "I know more than you. You're dumb." Like, what are you going to say to that 10-year-old? Like, okay, come on. I'm 20. Like, so don't think you know it all when you're at 25, 20 years old to like a 40, 50-year-old like us or whatever, because we have more experiences. We've been like, we know what's coming down the line. But it's just that I thought that was pretty funny. He's like, oh, like imagine a 10-year-old telling you like what to do, that he's smarter than you. What are you going to say to him? Like, no, I'm obviously smarter than you. I'm 20. It's like the same thing with that gap of us. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I think too. I feel like you're a pretty open-minded individual, and I feel like I am too. So when even with my own beliefs, I am not so attached to my own beliefs where because I feel like if you get too attached, like this is the way it is, my perspective's right, that you shut yourself off to everything that opposes that. So I try to kind of have this middle ground where even I will analyze my own perspectives. Like, is my foundation solid? And every once in a while, I feel like you have to go back and analyze yourself, analyze your belief system, because there might be a flaw in there somewhere that you're closing yourself off to all this other
Mm-hmm.
possibility because of this belief that's built in some sort of false reality.
And
But I think
I'm listening to the Jordan Peterson 12 rules as well. And he said something like that. I was really enlightening. He says like most people, when they conversate with people like about politics, religion, or anything like that, they immediately go to their default of what they already know and they don't let you talk. Like, I'm not going to sit there and let you talk about something that's against my stuff that I know and I've lived in, because then if I do and I listen and I understand, there's a possibility that that might change my worldview. And then if once it does, then my whole belief system crumbles. So it's like a lot of people won't even let you talk, or they'll argue over you because their whole belief system, their whole identity crumbles on the fact of them being wrong. So they don't even let you listen. And I thought that was a pretty interesting like idea as well.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense too of why kind of people are the way that they are.
Yeah.
But
So now
yeah,
I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to listen more, like, in conversation. Cause you say I'm open minded because I don't, like I always thought like I thought I was right a lot when I was younger, but I learned that I had been wrong on a lot of things. And now I'm open to everybody. Like I think it's kind of cool. Like I didn't really like religion for a long time, like, but now I'm like, if I'm with a Christian, I'll listen to them. If I'm with a Hindu person or a Muslim, I'll listen to them because it also like, because there's a lot of cool stories and morals and stuff in there. Like you might learn something.
yeah. Yeah, for me too, I think what got me kind of thinking more outside of the, maybe I'm getting off topic here, but
Yeah, it's fine.
what got me thinking more outside of the box or outside of myself was psychedelics. Like that really opened my mind to other possibilities because like when I first started doing them, it was like I would analyze myself so much and I'd be, and this is while I was under the influence. I'm like, I remember going through this thought process. Like I wake up, I go to work, I come home, I do the same exact thing every day. Like, what is the purpose? What's the point of all
Yeah.
of this? And it just led me down a rabbit hole where I started to question myself, started questioning my own beliefs. And I think that kind of helped me to my current point of view where I just try to be open and, like you said, listen to what other people have to say and then analyze it and break it apart. And then if there's some truth in there, like, yeah, I can take it and maybe make it my own a little bit. Or, if something that I do believe in, if a structure has to crumble away and fall, like, so be it. Like, I think that is the point of life, is to change and adapt. And if you have a false belief system that is holding you back, like, the only way to get rid of it is go through the painful process of breaking it down. Is as difficult as that may be, it may be necessary in order for you to take a positive change in your future.
Yeah. And I don't think that's really, it might be a little off topic, but it's thing it also ties into what we're talking about, the food, because people think they know everything. Like you think you know everything, but you don't. Like just like when you're 20, oh, I know everything. And even right now, people might at 40s and 50s, people might think like, oh, this is the way I've always been doing it. This is the way I do it. So this works and this is everything. But there's always something to know and always something to learn. Like we don't know everything. We only know a blip. Like once you start knowing more, actually, you learn how much you don't even know. Like just going into the world of health and food, I never really taught any of that. I would just eat food, like as long just, oh, you're a strong, healthy male, young, healthy kid eating his McDonald's, but you don't realize like there's a whole world of nutrition and what each vegetable and each fucking fruit does and all that stuff and how it all gets into your body and like the compounds and what it does and how it prevents things. Like there's so much things you can learn. You can go down the rabbit hole forever. And there's a lot of misleading information out there too. But like that's why you just try to open an open mind and learn about all this stuff so you could at least see it and make the decision for yourself, like, and try it out as well too a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like there's some philosopher says that it's like the more yeah, I can't think of the quote right now, but pretty much he's like, I'm smart enough to realize like I don't know everything. It's
Like Plato or Socrates or one of those.
yeah, I can't remember how the exact quote goes, but it's something like that. Like, yeah,
The more I know, the more I know that I don't know.
yeah, something like that. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense too. But if you're I'm trying to think, if your perspective is so narrow that you never try to question anything, it's like you could live life through this little tunnel, but there's all this
Yeah.
other stuff going on outside of that you're unaware to, just because your perspective doesn't allow you to see it.
Yeah. It's like there's a big world out there and there's so much stuff to learn. But, like I say, like a lot of people just live on the one thing that got them surviving. Like, okay, well, this kind of food system, this kind of food got survived. I survived on it this whole time. Why can't I just keep doing it? And it's like, well, because your body hasn't had enough time to break down yet. Yeah. And once it does, then it's going to be like, okay, and then you're going to be forced to change or don't change and die, because I know even in my own family, like my aunt, she would just sit there all day drinking Coca-Cola, drinking Coca-Cola, all or Pepsi, whatever, all day. Like there's huge big gulps and stuff. And like she would just drink like a 12 pack, 18 pack a day of like, and she ended up getting so big. And I thought my dad would outlast her, but she ended up outlasting my dad. I guess your body just adapts to that lifestyle. But if I drink that many sodas right now after being healthy for this long, it's going to destroy me, like what the hell, But her body just adapts. She started getting all these pills, and then she eventually passed away a year or so ago. But it's just crazy, like how long your body can just sit there and just deteriorate. It takes a while, and people think like, "Oh, I'm good now at 25, 35," but your body's breaking down with that. Like obviously we get older and we deteriorate over time. But there's also 80-year-olds out there playing pickleball, like running around, like in pretty good shape at 80 years old. Like, and then there's people that are 60 that are in wheelchairs and can't even move. So it's like, this is the choices that you're making that lead to these factors, over time.
Yeah, the crazy part is too, I was like, I know as I feel my drinking personally never got this bad. I was more of like a I consider myself like a drunk. Like I wouldn't drink every day, but on the weekends, like I got drunk. Like I try to get as faded as possible. That was like my thing. And it's crazy that some people actually get so dependent on alcohol that if you took the alcohol away, like it would kill them.
Yeah.
So that is another crazy thing. Like your body adapted to this bad substance so much so that it needs it to survive. That's kind of a trip if you think about it too.
I think
But
that
I know
happened to like Amy Winehouse, right? Like she like detoxed and ended up dying.
maybe I'm not sure. But
I think,
I know I've heard that before. Like certain people, like if you get the shakes when you stop, like you need to go to like a medical professional in order to get off of it. Like just don't quit cold turkey because it could kill you. Like that's to me that's insane.
yeah, I had a guy that I worked with back in the day, like when I was younger, like 18 and something. He would literally shake. He's like, he's like, I can't work right now. I need a Steel Reserve 211, like 40 ounce, because like, look at my hand, and his hand would be going like this. And I'm like, and I'm 18. I'm saying like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, how is this even possible? And then he would drink a 40, and then he'd be, oh, now I'm working fine. He was just like totally fine. I was like crazy. Like you couldn't even function without it. But something like that, it's like with the food as well. It's like you just got to wean yourself off. It's going to take a while, but you got to stay persistent and just got to keep that hope alive.
Yep, exactly. Change is hard, and I guess if it was easy, everybody would just be living their dream life with no kind of hustle or no kind of discomfort, no kind of work needed to do it. So I
Yeah, and a
think
lot
that
of
kind of makes it valuable is that to achieve a certain lifestyle, it's hard to do, and that's
yeah,
what gives it the value behind it.
yep. But like too, like change is hard. Some people don't even want to change. They're like unless you're saying they get something bad happen to them. But it does get easier over time. It just gets like it just becomes the new routine. Like oh, going to the like you said, going to the gym. Now it's just like oh, just something I do now. It's like or just eating good. It's like your palates change, your taste buds change, and all that, and it's just like oh, this is what I do now. It's almost like I don't want to change to go back to it because that's harder because now I'm getting fat. My side would hurt, like my back, because I'm getting fatter and all this other stuff. So it's actually harder, in my opinion, to go back to that lifestyle. But over time it does get easier.
Yeah. And it's almost like driving a car. It's not like you got into the car and the first time you're, Jeff Gordon driving all good. It's like you didn't and you didn't get into the car like, oh, I'm not really good at driving. I'm just not gonna do it. It's not something I could do. It's like, no, you practice over time and then eventually you get to the point where it's almost like you could fall asleep while driving. You know what I mean? It's so subconscious, just
Like me,
driving that you don't think about any of it. And I think a lot of your other habits become like that as well, whether it's working out or eating or
yeah,
pretty,
definitely,
pretty much everything. I think
yeah. But it all depends at the end of the day, like how much you want it and how much you want to change, and like what is your why and what you're doing it for too. Like, and what are you doing it like? What are you doing it for? You're doing it for your kid, right, and your family and yourself as well too.
exactly those three things. I feel like too is like if you can use something outside of yourself, like a child, like use it, but ultimately too, you gotta want it too.
Yeah, like mine is like, oh, just I'm very competitive. I want to beat my dad. He lived to 66. I'm trying to live to 90. Like I also like I'm doing it because I'm curious of what the future is. Like I want to see what happens in the future. Like it's like all this stuff is winding down. Who knows what's going to happen with the America or whatever. I want to see what kind of inventions we have. Like I want to live a fulfilling life. I want to do a lot of things. Like saying, I seen a video on TikTok or something saying like, oh, I'm 40, I'm going to live to, let's say, 90. I have this much time and I have this much shit I want to do. Like I want to do a lot of things that I haven't done yet to experience the full range of life. And if I figured if I don't change my diet, that's none of that's going to happen. You're going to be in a hospital. Like if you could just have one stroke, you could be in a wheelchair. It's not like you're going to die. You could literally be in a wheelchair for the next 10, 15 years. And like, who wants to live like that? I do not. So I think about these things all day. Like, I don't want to live like that. If you have a heart attack, then you can't walk up the stairs without getting out of breath. Like, no, I like moving around. I like going outside. I like being adventurous. And I wouldn't be able to do any of that if I kept up with my eating habits and my unhealthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I definitely think for me, having my son put a lot of things into perspective. Honestly, if he wasn't around, I'd probably still be drinking. I don't know. Maybe I would have never got the wake up call, but he was a big piece of the puzzle why I stopped drinking, and more recently why I started thinking more about my health. Like I want to be able to play with them and do things and be able to go outside and walk around and wrestle with them. Like I don't want to be a dad like, oh, I can't do that. I'm hurting, or I got my little
Yeah.
oxygen tank with me that I gotta keep around with me at all times. Like that's no way to live in my mind. Like, if you have to, like, obviously people are going through that struggle, but if you could prevent it, like now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and I think too, like a lot of people have kids and they don't change at all. They're still eating bad and drinking and smoking and all that stuff. And then I think a lot of that has to do with like, let's say like when I was growing up, my parents would smoke weed and I had smoked weed. I was like, at first I would be like, I'm not going to do it. So like your parents kind of pass down like these bad traits to you, but it's kind of like in your head, you're thinking like, well, they're 40 and they're still doing it and they're fine. So I could do it at 18. Like I'm definitely gonna live to 40. They did it. So you kind of think like that too. So like a lot of people like are saying like your dad passed away, my dad passed away. And I always say that's the final best lesson my dad ever gave me. Hold on a second. Let me get this stupid dog. They're spraying stuff outside or whatever. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But um stop hitting the dog on camera, guys. Yeah, so anyhow, one of the best lessons is that that he taught me is that he died. He's like, oh well, if you don't live like that, you live bad, what's going to happen? You're going to die, like, but some people have their parents that are still alive, 70s and 80s, and they're like living, they're just thinking, oh, my parents lived that long, I could live that long.
Yeah, too. Maybe the reason why we're both on this little health journey right now is because our parents did die so young. Like my dad passed when he was 53, and maybe if he was still alive, I wouldn't, who knows where my life would be. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I said this before, but like before I kind of used to look at his passing almost like as a bad thing. And it wasn't until I got older where I kind of looked at the way he lived and the way he died and kind of saw it more in a positive light, because like I don't want to end up like that. And now I have the tools to change, and at least it put it on my radar. Like if you don't make these changes, like you might end up like your dad did. And I obviously don't want to be there. Yeah, part of me too, like you said earlier, it's like I want to beat my dad. Like it's only 13 more years. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's crazy too. Like it's like I'm gonna get to a point that I was my dad's age when he passed. Like
Yeah.
that's a little weird to think about.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's what I said. Like my dad's favorite, best lesson, his last lesson, because he taught me lots of things. But the last one was like, you'll die at 66 or before if you don't fix your high blood pressure, your heart disease, and all that. Because he had a minor stroke, he had a minor heart attack before, and he kept eating. He kept saying like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna eat like how I want to eat." And then where did that leave him? But if he didn't, if he would have got the lifestyle that I'm living now, maybe he would have been alive right now and could have lived to his 70s or 80s. But a lot of people don't have that, or like a lot of people have their parents living long. Like my mom's still alive at 72. So you're thinking like, oh, and she's not eating healthy either. So some people might have both their parents and just think like, well, maybe like I could still eat like this because they're alive. That's 70. I'm 40 right now. Like I still have 32 years. I don't think about the immediate effects. Like and they don't look at the full range of like their lifestyle. Like, are they moving good? You know, are they living a good life? Like, no, they're not. So
I'm gonna take a minute. I gotta go to the bathroom.
well, let's just end it here. Actually, there's noise out there, and the dog keeps barking and stuff. This is probably a good point to end.
All right, sounds good.
But yeah. So next time we try to do it a little earlier when everybody's not up and making all this noise.
Yeah.
Because they're stupid. I don't even know what they're doing out there, but it's making noise. But anyhow, that's the end of this podcast. We ran like an hour and 10 minutes. That's pretty good. And
thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully you gained some knowledge or some insights on some of the topics that we talked about. And yeah,
and just remember, never give up on your health.
Yep. It's one thing that nobody can work for you. So it's all up to you to get it as good as you can.
Yep. That's all right. All right, guys. See you later.
Good one.